On my son's 9th birthday, I received a call. I want to buy your child. Look, I'm going to tell you something that'll make you want to lock your doors tonight. And honestly, you should. The call came at 3:47 p.m. on Tuesday, September 12th, exactly 17 minutes after I'd lit 9 dinosaur candles on Lucas's chocolate cake. I know the exact time because I was staring at my phone, wondering if my ex-husband would actually remember to call this year. Spoiler alert, he didn't. But someone else did. Mrs. Chen? The voice was smooth, practiced, like a car salesman who'd perfected his pitch on 1,000 desperate customers. Yes? I was still wiping frosting off my fingers, watching Lucas through the kitchen window as he chased our neighbor's cat around the backyard. His Superman cape, a red towel safety pinned to his shoulders, flapped behind him like he actually believed he could fly. I want to buy your child. The words hit me like ice water. Not adopt. Not discuss arrangements. Buy. Like Lucas was a car with a price tag. I should have hung up immediately. Should have called the police. Should have done a lot of things differently. But you know what I did instead? I laughed. One of those nervous, disbelieving laughs that bubbles up when your brain can't process what it just heard. Excuse me? Your son, Lucas. 9 years old today. I'm prepared to offer you $2 million. Two things happened simultaneously. My phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the kitchen counter, and Lucas chose that exact moment to run inside, cape askew, grass stains on his knees. Mom, did you see how fast I was? I think I might actually have superpowers. I managed to grab the phone before the stranger hung up, but my hand was shaking so badly I nearly dropped it again. Who is this? Someone who appreciates rare things, the voice continued, completely unfazed by my shock. Lucas is quite special, isn't he? That little incident at school last month. The way he somehow knew Mrs. Patterson was going to have her heart attack 3 minutes before it happened. My blood turned to slush. Nobody knew about that except me, Lucas, and the principal, who'd agreed to keep it quiet after I'd begged her not to make a big deal of it. Kids say weird things all the time, right? Sometimes they get lucky with their guesses. Except Lucas hadn't guessed. He grabbed my arm during parent-teacher conferences and whispered, "Mom, something bad is going to happen to Mrs. Patterson. Her heart is making the wrong sound." I thought he was being dramatic. Then 63-year-old Mrs. Patterson collapsed at 2:43 p.m. the next Tuesday, clutching her chest in the middle of a spelling lesson. I don't know what you're talking about, I lied, pulling Lucas closer to me. He looked up with those impossibly blue eyes that sometimes seem to see things the rest of us missed. Of course you do, Sarah. May I call you Sarah? The man didn't wait for an answer. You've been wondering about Lucas for years. The way he knows things. The way animals behave around him. The way electronics malfunction when he's upset. I wanted to deny it, but my microwave had stopped working yesterday after Lucas threw a tantrum about bedtime. And our smoke detector had been beeping randomly for weeks, but only when Lucas was in the room. $2.5 million, the voice continued. Final offer. You're insane. My voice came out as a croak. I would never. Think about it, Sarah. Really think. You're 28 years old, working double shifts at a hospital, drowning in student loans. Your ex-husband hasn't paid child support in 8 months. You're one major expense away from losing your apartment. Every word was a precision strike. How did he know about David? About the overdue rent notices I'd hidden in my underwear drawer? Lucas would have everything he needs with us. The best education, proper training for his abilities, a future beyond anything you could provide. Us? My voice cracked. We're collectors, Sarah. Of special children. Lucas would join others like him, a family that understands what he is. The way he said what instead of who made my skin crawl. Mom? Lucas tugged on my shirt. Who are you talking to? You look scared. I realized I was gripping the phone so hard my knuckles had gone white. Just a work call, baby. Why don't you go play with your new Legos? But I wanted to show you my trick with the coins. Later, Lucas. Please. He gave me that look, the one that said he knew something was wrong but was too polite to push. I love that kid. The thought of anyone taking him made me want to commit violence. You have 48 hours to consider our offer, the man said. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. I stood there for a full minute, phone pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. Then I did what any reasonable person would do. I grabbed Lucas, threw some clothes in a backpack, and got the heck out of town. We drove for 3 hours before I realized I had no plan. No destination. Just a tank of gas and a growing sense of dread that seemed to follow us like a storm cloud. Mom, are we going on an adventure? Lucas asked from the back seat, clutching his favorite stuffed dragon. His voice held that careful optimism kids use when they're trying to make the best of a confusing situation. Something like that, sweetheart. Is it because of the phone call? The one that made you look like you were going to throw up? Sometimes I forgot how perceptive he was. Yeah, baby. Sometimes grown-ups have to make quick decisions to keep their kids safe. From the bad man? I nearly ran a red light. What bad man? The one on the phone. He felt wrong. Like when milk goes sour but you can't smell it yet. That was so typically Lucas, describing the indescribable in ways that made perfect sense and no sense at all. I learned to trust his instincts about people. The mailman who gave him the creeps turned out to be stealing packages. The substitute teacher who made him feel fuzzy inside was later arrested for inappropriate conduct with students. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, running won't change our offer, Sarah. But it will make things more complicated. I threw the phone into the passenger seat like it was a poisonous snake. Mom? Everything's fine, Lucas. We're just taking a little trip. We ended up at a motel outside Bakersfield, the kind of place where they don't ask questions if you pay cash and keep your head down. The clerk was a weathered woman with kind eyes who took one look at us and handed over a key without requiring ID. Room 237, she said. Ice machine's broken, but the vending machine works. You folks running from something? I must have looked as terrified as I felt because she leaned forward conspiratorially. Honey, I've been working nights for 15 years. I can spot trouble from 3 counties away. Whatever's chasing you, this place has good locks and a back exit that leads to the highway. I wanted to hug her. The room smelled like industrial disinfectant and old cigarettes, but it was clean and anonymous. Lucas immediately claimed the bed nearest the window, spreading his few toys across the faded comforter like he was marking territory. Can we order pizza? He asked, bouncing slightly. This feels like a pizza kind of adventure. Sure, baby. I was already Googling the nearest pizza place when my phone rang again. Same unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to the message and my blood froze. Sarah, I'm disappointed. We had such a civilized conversation, and now you've made this unnecessarily difficult. We know you're at the Desert Rose Motel, room 237. We know Lucas is playing with his dragon, the blue one with a missing wing. We know you ordered a large pepperoni pizza at 8:23 p.m. I looked at Lucas, who was indeed playing with his blue dragon, and at the pizza order confirmation on my phone. 8:23 p.m. Here's what's going to happen, the voice continued. You're going to walk outside in exactly 10 minutes. We're going to have a face-to-face conversation. Lucas will stay in the room and be perfectly safe, as long as you cooperate. If you run again, if you call the police, if you make any other impulsive decisions, things will become unpleasant for both of you. The message ended. I stared at my phone, paralyzed. How did they know where we were? How did they know what Lucas was playing with? Were they watching us right now? Mom? Lucas had stopped playing and was looking at me with those knowing eyes. The bad feelings are getting stronger. I walked to the window and peeked through the curtain. The parking lot looked normal, a few cars, nothing suspicious. But that didn't mean anything. If these people were half as resourceful as they seemed, they could be anywhere. Lucas, I need you to listen very carefully. I have to go outside for a few minutes. I need you to lock the door behind me and don't open it for anyone except me. Can you do that? I don't want you to go. His voice was small, scared. I know, baby. But sometimes moms have to do scary things to protect their kids. It's going to be okay. I was lying, and we both knew it. I found him leaning against a black sedan, smoking a cigarette like he had all the time in the world. He was younger than his voice had suggested, maybe 40, with silver hair and expensive clothes. The kind of man who'd look at home in a boardroom or a country club. Sarah. He smiled, and it was worse than if he'd threatened me. You look upset. What do you want? I crossed my arms, trying to look braver than I felt. I told you what I want. The question is, what do you want? He took a long drag of his cigarette. Because I can make this very easy for you, or very difficult. I want you to leave us alone. He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. That's not really an option anymore. You see, Lucas isn't just special. He's one of maybe a dozen children in the world with his particular talents. Do you have any idea how valuable that makes him? He's not for sale. Everything's for sale, Sarah. It's just a matter of finding the right price. He flicked his cigarette away. Let me tell you about the others. There's a girl in Tokyo who can influence electronics with her thoughts. A boy in Stockholm who sees 30 seconds into the future. Another in Mumbai who can sense people's deepest fears. My stomach turned. You've taken children before. Acquired, he corrected. And their families are very well compensated. Some of them even thank us. I'll never thank you. You will when you see what we can offer Lucas. Training. Understanding. A chance to develop his abilities instead of hiding them. His smile turned predatory. Because that's what you've been doing, isn't it? Making him suppress what makes him special, telling him to ignore what he feels, pretending he's normal. The words hit harder than I expected because they weren't entirely wrong. I had been telling Lucas to keep quiet about the things he knew, the feelings he got about people. I'd convinced myself I was protecting him, but what if I'd been stunting him instead? $3 million, the man said. My final offer? No. Sarah, be reasonable. You can't protect him forever. Others will come. Others who won't be as generous as we are. Others? Did you think we were the only ones who knew about Lucas? There are governments who would love to study him. Criminal organizations who would use him very differently than we would. Religious extremists who would see him as either a miracle or an abomination. My legs felt weak. You're lying. Am I? Check your email. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. There was a new message from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, proof. I opened it and nearly dropped the phone. It was a photo of Lucas and me at the grocery store last week. We were in the cereal aisle, and Lucas was pointing at something off camera with that intense concentration he got sometimes. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was the timestamp. It was taken 3 days before the first phone call. We've been watching your family for months, Sarah. We know Lucas predicted Mrs. Patterson's heart attack. We know he told you not to drive to work last Tuesday because something felt sharp and fast, and there was a 7-car pileup on your usual route at exactly the time you would have been there. We know he wakes up crying sometimes because he dreams about things that haven't happened yet. Every word was true. Lucas had been having nightmares for weeks, but when I asked him about them, he'd just say they were about the sad things that might happen. The boy is remarkable, the man continued. But he's also in danger. Every day he stays with you is another day his abilities grow stronger and harder to hide. How long before his classmates notice? His teachers? How long before someone less friendly than us decides they want him? I felt trapped, like the walls of reality were closing in around me. If I say no, then we take him anyway. Tonight. Tomorrow. Next week. It doesn't matter. But if you say yes, you get compensated. You get to know he's safe and cared for. You get to visit. Visit? My voice was barely a whisper. Once a month. Supervised, of course. You could see how well he's doing, how happy he is with children like himself. I thought about Lucas in that motel room, playing with his dragon, trusting me to come back. I thought about his nightmares, his strange knowledge, the way he sometimes looked at people like he could see right through to their souls. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow at noon. After that, the offer expires and we proceed with alternative methods. He got into his car and drove away, leaving me standing in a motel parking lot at 9 p.m., holding the weight of an impossible decision. I walked back to the room on unsteady legs. Lucas was exactly where I'd left him, but he'd arranged his few toys in a perfect circle around himself. It's a protection circle, he explained when he saw me looking. Like in the stories you read me. Sometimes if you make the circle just right, bad things can't get in. My heart broke a little. Sweetheart, toy circles don't really work like that. I know, he said sadly. But I wanted to try anyway. I sat on the edge of his bed and pulled him close. He smelled like the strawberry shampoo we'd grabbed from home and something indefinable that was purely Lucas, like sunshine and possibilities. Mom, are we in trouble? I wanted to lie, to protect him from the horrible reality of our situation. But Lucas had always been able to sense deception, even mine. Yeah, baby. We are. Because of the things I know? Yeah. He was quiet for a long moment, leaning against me. Then, I don't want to know things anymore. It makes people scared. Oh, Lucas. I hugged him tighter. You should never have to hide what makes you special. But it does make people scared. Even you, sometimes? He was right, and it killed me. When he predicted Mrs. Patterson's heart attack, my first instinct hadn't been pride or wonder. It had been fear. Fear of what people would think, what they'd do, how they'd treat him if they knew. What if I went with them? He asked quietly. What? The bad man. What if I went with him so he'd leave you alone? Lucas, no. Absolutely not. But if I'm the one causing the trouble, you're not causing anything. You're 9 years old. You're supposed to be thinking about comic books and soccer, not sacrificing yourself for other people. But I don't like soccer, he said with such perfect Lucas logic that I almost smiled despite everything. My phone buzzed. Another text, 12 hours, Sarah. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked at my son, really looked at him. The way he unconsciously mirrored people's emotions, trying to make them feel better. The way he'd started hunching his shoulders in school, trying to make himself smaller, less noticeable. The way he apologized for things that weren't his fault, like he'd internalized the idea that his existence was somehow an inconvenience. And I realized something, I'd already lost him. Maybe not physically, not yet, but I'd been slowly erasing the parts of him that made him extraordinary, teaching him to be ashamed of gifts that should have made him proud. The man was right about one thing, I couldn't protect Lucas forever. But that didn't mean I had to hand him over like a prize. Pack your things, I told Lucas. We're leaving. Where are we going? I don't know yet. But we're going to figure it out together. We left at 3 a.m., while the world was dark and quiet. I'd spent hours researching on my phone, looking up everything I could find about children with unusual abilities, about organizations that might help us or hurt us. The internet, as it turns out, is full of both hope and horror. I found stories about kids like Lucas, children who knew things they shouldn't, who could sense emotions or predict events or influence their environment in subtle ways. Some of the stories had happy endings. Most didn't. But I also found something else, a network of parents in similar situations, forums where they shared resources and warnings and strategies for staying hidden. A underground railroad for families like ours. I'd sent out a dozen desperate messages to usernames like Proud Mom Off Gifted and Hiding in Plain Sight, explaining our situation and begging for help. One had responded, I-35 north to Oklahoma City. Exit 127, Walmart parking lot. Look for the blue Honda with a stuffed elephant in the rear window. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Come alone. It wasn't much, but it was something. Lucas slept in the passenger seat as we drove through the night, his head resting against the window. He looked so small, so fragile. How was it possible that this sleepy kid with grass stains on his jeans was worth millions of dollars to strangers? My phone had been buzzing constantly since we left the motel. I'd finally turned it off an hour ago, but I could imagine the messages piling up. Threats, probably. Promises? Maybe even location data tracking our movements. I pulled off a highway near Barstow and bought a new phone from a 24-hour gas station, paying cash. The clerk was a tired-looking woman in her 50s who didn't seem to care why someone might need an untraceable phone at 4 a.m. Running from an ex? She asked conversationally while ringing up the phone and a bag of chips. Something like that. Honey, I've sold more burner phones to women in the last 5 years than I care to count. Whatever he did, it ain't worth going back. If only it were that simple. The blue Honda was exactly where it was supposed to be, elephant and all. The woman behind the wheel looked like someone's grandmother, silver hair, kind eyes, a knitted sweater despite the heat. The last person you'd suspect of running an underground railroad for psychic children. Lucas had been quiet during the drive, sensing my tension. But when he saw the woman, some of that tension left his shoulders. She feels safe, he whispered. The woman, Martha, she introduced herself, had a thermos of hot chocolate and a bag of homemade cookies. She also had information. The organization your caller represents calls themselves the Consortium, she explained as we sat in her car, windows down, pretending to be a normal family having a roadside snack. They're not the worst group out there, but they're not the best either. They do take good care of the children, but they're not raised to be children. They're raised to be assets. Tools. The kids I've met who've escaped from their facilities. They're brilliant, powerful, but they don't know how to just be. They don't know how to have friends or favorite foods or silly dreams. Lucas was listening intently while pretending to focus on his cookie. There are other options, Martha continued. Families like yours who've chosen to stay together and stay hidden. It's not easy, but it's possible. How? New identities. Safe communities. People who understand what your children are and help them develop their abilities safely, naturally. She smiled at Lucas. How would you like to go to a school where half the kids can do things that other people think are impossible? Lucas's eyes went wide. Really? Really? There's a place in northern Montana, looks like a regular small town but it's not. About 60 families, all with children like you. They have regular schools and regular activities, but they also have special classes for kids who need them. It sounded too good to be true. What's the catch? You can never go back to your old life. Never contact old friends or family. You become completely different people. Martha's expression was serious. And if the Consortium or any other group finds you, the whole community is at risk. Lucas tugged on my sleeve. Mom, I think we should do it. Sweetheart, it means we can never see Grandma again, or your cousins, but we'd be together, he said simply. And maybe I could learn how to use my knowing things power to help people instead of just scaring them. Martha smiled. Smart kid. So how does it work? You drive to a specific location. Someone meets you, takes you to a transition house where you'll spend a few weeks learning your new identities, and then you're relocated to the community. You'll have jobs, housing, everything you need for a normal life. Except it won't be normal. Honey, Martha said gently, normal went out the window the minute your son started predicting heart attacks. This is about finding a new kind of normal that actually fits your family. She was right. We'd never had normal, not really. I'd just been pretending we did. There's one more thing, Martha said. The transition has to happen fast. Tonight, if possible. The Consortium doesn't usually give up easily, and every hour you delay gives them more time to find you. I looked at Lucas, who was watching me with those two wise eyes. What do you think, baby? I think I want to go somewhere where I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not. This kid was going to break my heart with his wisdom. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Martha gave us an address in Nevada and a contact code. We'd drive there tonight, check into a specific motel, and wait for someone to find us. Within 48 hours, we'd either be on our way to a new life or. Well, she didn't say what the alternative was, but I could imagine. We said goodbye in that Walmart parking lot, two women and a boy who'd probably never see each other again but who'd shared a moment of absolute trust. Take care of each other, Martha said as we got ready to leave. We will, I promised. As we pulled out of the parking lot, Lucas twisted around to wave at her through the rear window. I hope she finds other families to help, he said. I'm sure she will. Good. She has the same feeling as you when you help sick people at the hospital. Like she's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing. Sometimes I forgot that Lucas could read people the way I read books. We drove through the night again, but this time it felt different. Less like running away and more like running towards something. Lucas chattered about what the new school might be like, whether there would be other kids who had dreams about the future, if he'd finally be able to make friends who understood him. Do you think I'll have to change my name? He asked as we crossed into Nevada. Probably. Can I pick it? I don't see why not. He was quiet for a while, thinking. Ben, I want to keep the same first letter. So it still feels like me. That sounds reasonable. What about you? What name do you want? I hadn't thought about it. Sarah Chen was the only identity I'd ever had. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Maybe Sarah Chen had made too many compromises, been too afraid, too willing to hide what made her family special. I'll figure it out when we get there, I said. I hope they have a library, Lucas said drowsily. And a playground. And maybe a dog. Maybe a dog, I agreed, smiling. By the time we reached the address Martha had given us, Lucas was asleep again. The motel looked exactly like every other roadside motel we'd seen, except for one thing, the clerk who checked us in had the same careful, knowing look in her eyes that Martha had. Room 12, she said, handing over the key. Someone will be by to see you in the morning. I woke up at dawn to find Lucas sitting by the window, watching the parking lot. They're here, he said quietly. My heart jumped. The consortium? No. The good people. 3 cars, but they feel hopeful. I looked out and saw 3 ordinary sedans with tinted windows. As I watched, a woman got out of the middle car and walked toward our room. She was about my age, wearing jeans and a sweater, looking like any suburban mom you might see at a grocery store. She knocked softly. Sarah? Lucas? I'm Detective Morrison from the new community. May I come in? I opened the door cautiously. The woman smiled and held up an ID badge. Not that kind of detective, she said. Think of it more as community liaison. May I? I let her in. She looked around the motel room, taking in our few possessions, the way Lucas was still sitting by the window but now watching her instead of the parking lot. You must be Lucas, she said. I hear you're pretty special. That's what got us in trouble, he replied seriously. Detective Morrison laughed, a genuine, warm sound. Well, where we're going, special is normal and normal is boring. How do you feel about mountains? I like them. Good, because you're about to see a lot of them. She turned to me. Sarah, I know this is scary. You're trusting strangers with your son's life, your future, everything. I can't promise it'll be perfect, but I can promise it'll be real. No more hiding, no more pretending, no more being afraid of what makes your family extraordinary. What about the consortium? Will they find us? Eventually, someone might. But where you're going, you'll have an entire community watching out for you. 60 families who've all made the same choice you're making. People who understand what it's like to have children who see things others can't. She pulled out a tablet and showed us photos, a small town nestled in mountains, kids playing in a schoolyard, families at what looked like a community barbecue. It looked impossibly normal and impossibly perfect. The transition will take about 3 weeks, Detective Morrison continued. New social security numbers, birth certificates, background histories. You'll have jobs waiting, Sarah, there's a position at the community medical center that's perfect for your experience. Lucas, there's a school with teachers who specialize in children with enhanced abilities. Enhanced abilities, Lucas repeated. I like that better than weird things I know. You'll fit right in, Detective Morrison assured him. I found myself crying, not from fear this time, but from relief. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like we were making a choice instead of just reacting to circumstances. When do we leave? Right now, if you're ready. I looked at Lucas, who was already gathering his few toys. Are you ready, baby? I've been ready my whole life, he said. And somehow, I knew exactly what he meant. Epilogue, 2 months later, the town is called Haven, which isn't subtle but fits. Our new names are Sophie and Liam Cross, close enough to our old selves that we don't forget to respond, different enough that our past feels safely distant. Liam loves his school. His teacher, Mrs. Anderson, has a daughter who can influence weather patterns and a son who sees people's auras. When Liam told her he sometimes dreams about things before they happen, she just nodded and asked if he'd like to join the future site study group. I work at the medical center with 2 other doctors, a nurse who can sense illnesses through touch, and a receptionist whose emotional empathy is so strong she has to take regular breaks to center herself. It's the first job I've ever had where my colleagues understand when I say things like, I have a feeling about this patient or something doesn't seem right. We live in a small house with a garden where Liam is growing vegetables that seem to respond to his mood. The tomatoes are particularly enthusiastic. We have a dog now, too, a rescue named Scout who seems to have his own sixth sense about people's intentions. Sometimes I wonder about the consortium, whether they're still looking for us. But mostly I don't think about them at all. We're not hiding anymore, we're just living somewhere that understands us. Last week, Liam made a friend named Emma who can communicate with electronics. They spend hours talking to my computer, apparently helping it run more efficiently. I pretend to be annoyed when I catch them, but secretly I'm thrilled to see my son finally acting like a normal kid, even if normal in Haven means something completely different than it did in our old life. The only thing that reminds me of how far we've come is the call I got yesterday. Unknown number, that familiar smooth voice. Sarah? Or should I say Sophie? My blood went cold, but only for a moment. Then I remembered where I was, who was around me, the community that had chosen to protect families like mine. I think you have the wrong number, I said calmly. We know where you are. Good for you. We know where we are too. There was a pause. This isn't over. Actually, I said, watching Liam and Emma teach Scout to shake hands while invisible electronics whirred approvingly around them, it really is. And I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. By the 4th call, Liam looked up from where he was teaching Scout to respond to hand signals that existed only in his mind. Mom, should I listen to what he's thinking? I nearly choked on my coffee. What he's thinking. The angry man on the phone. Sometimes when people are really, really mad, their thoughts get loud. Like shouting, but inside their heads. This was new. In all our conversations about his abilities, Liam had never mentioned hearing thoughts before. Since when can you? Since we got here, he said simply. Mrs. Anderson says it's because I feel safe now. When you're not scared all the time, sometimes new things wake up inside you. The phone had stopped ringing. I checked the voicemail. You think you're clever, hiding in your little commune. But we have resources, Sarah. We have patience. And we have other children who would be very interested to know what Lucas can do. My stomach dropped. Other children. Other kids like Liam, but working for the consortium. I was about to call Detective Morrison when someone knocked on our door. Not the polite, neighborly knock we'd gotten used to in Haven, but sharp, insistent rapping that made Scout growl. Mom, Liam whispered, their thoughts are really loud. And they're not nice thoughts. I peered through the window and saw 2 people on our porch, a woman in an expensive suit and a boy who couldn't be more than 12, both standing perfectly still in a way that seemed wrong somehow. Sophie Cross? The woman called out. I think we need to talk. I grabbed my phone and texted the emergency code Detective Morrison had given us, Red Alert, 247 Maple Street. In a town like Haven, help would arrive in minutes. Just a moment, I called back, stalling for time. The boy with them, Liam whispered, pressing close to me, he's scared. Really scared. But he's trying to hide it. I looked again and saw what Liam meant. The kid stood ramrod straight, hands at his sides, but there was something hollow in his expression. Like someone had trained the childhood right out of him. Mrs. Cross, we know you're in there. We also know your son is listening to our thoughts right now. The woman's voice carried a hint of amusement. Hello, Lucas. Or should I call you Liam now? Liam flinched like he'd been slapped. Don't answer her, baby. She's not talking out loud anymore, he whispered. She's thinking words at me. Mean words. About you. Rage flooded through me, hot, protective, and absolutely done with being scared. I opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. What do you want? The woman smiled, and it reminded me of those nature documentaries where predators bare their teeth before striking. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Kane. This is Marcus. We're here to collect what belongs to us. Nothing here belongs to you. On the contrary. Marcus here has been telling us very interesting things about your son. Haven't you, Marcus? The boy's face remained expressionless, but I caught a slight tremor in his hands. Marcus can see through other people's eyes, Dr. Kane continued conversationally. Quite useful for surveillance. He's been watching Lucas since you arrived in Haven. We know about the vegetables that respond to his emotions. We know about his new ability to hear thoughts. We know he can now sense electronics from 3 blocks away. My blood went cold. If they'd been watching us through this child, they knew everything. Our routines, our friends, the layout of the town. Marcus has been very helpful, Dr. Kane said. Haven't you, dear? The boy, Marcus, finally spoke, his voice flat and mechanical. Yes, ma'am. But Liam was shaking his head frantically. No, Mom. He's screaming inside. He doesn't want to be here. They're making him do this. Lucas, Dr. Kane said sharply, stop listening to things that don't concern you. His name is Liam, I snapped. His name is whatever I decide it is, once he's back where he belongs. I heard the rumble of engines approaching. The cavalry was coming, but would it be enough? You can't take him? This is a community that protects families like ours. Dr. Kane laughed. You mean this collection of misfits playing house in the mountains? We've dealt with places like Haven before. In fact, Marcus here used to live in one. Didn't you, Marcus? The boy's facade cracked just slightly. Yes, ma'am. Tell Mrs. Cross what happened to your community, Marcus. It was relocated. His voice broke on the last word. Scattered to the four winds, actually. Very sad. Of course, that was before we learned how much more cooperative families become when they realize resistance is futile. 3 trucks roared up our street, filled with people I recognized, neighbors, Liam's teacher, Detective Morrison. But Dr. Kane didn't seem concerned. Marcus, show them what you can do. The boy closed his eyes, and suddenly every electronic device on the street started malfunctioning. Car alarms blared, streetlights flickered, and I could hear phones buzzing and beeping from inside houses. Stop it, Liam shouted, breaking away from me and running toward Marcus. You're hurting everyone. Liam, no. But something incredible happened. As soon as Liam got close to Marcus, the electronic chaos stopped. The 2 boys stood facing each other, and I could see Marcus's shoulders shaking. I'm sorry, Marcus whispered. I'm so sorry. I don't want to do this anymore. I know, Liam said gently. I can hear how scared you are. Dr. Kane's composed expression flickered. Marcus, step away from him immediately. But Marcus was crying now and reaching out to take Liam's hand. I can't do it anymore, he sobbed. I can't spy on more kids. I can't help take them away from their families. Marcus, you know what happens when you disobey. The threat in her voice was unmistakable, but something had shifted. Detective Morrison and the others had surrounded Dr. Kane, and more importantly, Liam was doing something I'd never seen before. He was sharing his strength with Marcus. I don't know how else to describe it. But I could see Marcus standing straighter, his fear transforming into something else, determination, maybe. Hope. No, Marcus said to Dr. Kane. I won't do this anymore. You don't have a choice. You belong to the consortium. Nobody belongs to anybody, Liam said firmly. That's the first thing they teach us here in Haven. Dr. Kane pulled out a small device and pointed it at Marcus. One more chance, boy. But Detective Morrison was faster. In one smooth motion, she had Dr. Kane on the ground, the device skittering across our porch. Electronic collar, Detective Morrison said grimly, examining the device. Controls pain responses. This is how they've been controlling him. I felt sick. This woman had been torturing a child to make him compliant. Marcus, I said gently, you're safe now. She can't hurt you anymore. But there are others, he whispered. So many others. Kids who are still trapped, still being forced to do things they don't want to do. Liam looked at me with those wise eyes. Mom, we have to help them. Sweetheart, I don't know how, but I do, Marcus interrupted. I know where they are. I know how the consortium operates. I know their weaknesses. Dr. Kane laughed from where Detective Morrison held her. You think one facility matters? We have locations on every continent. You can't save them all. Maybe not, Detective Morrison said, but we can try. That night, after Dr. Kane had been taken away, to where, Detective Morrison wouldn't say, but her smile was grim, the whole community gathered in the town hall. Marcus sat between Liam and me, still jumping at sudden noises but looking more like a real kid every hour. Mrs. Anderson had examined him and discovered that, in addition to his remote viewing abilities, the consortium had been dosing him with drugs to suppress his emotions and enhance his compliance. It would take weeks for the chemicals to fully leave his system. They took me when I was 7, Marcus told the assembled families. My parents thought I was going to a special school for gifted children. The consortium has recruiters who specifically target families in financial trouble. Like they targeted us. There are 43 children in the North American facility alone, he continued. Some as young as 5. They're not treated badly, they have good food, nice rooms, education, but they're not allowed to form attachments. They're moved around so they never get too comfortable anywhere. And they're taught that their families didn't want them anymore. A woman in the back of the room started crying quietly. Her daughter could manipulate plant growth, and I remembered she told me about the scholarship offers they'd received before coming to Haven. The facility I was kept in is in Colorado, Marcus said. Underground, mostly, but there are ventilation points and service entrances. Security is heavy, but they don't expect the children to try to escape because most of them don't know they're prisoners. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Marcus, I need to ask you something difficult. Are you telling us this because you want to help, or because you still feel compelled to obey adults? It was a fair question. Marcus considered it seriously. I think I want to help. When I was watching Liam and his mom, I kept thinking about how happy they looked together. Even when they were scared, even when they were running, they had each other. I haven't had anyone who cared about me like that since I was 7. Liam reached over and squeezed his hand. You have us now. What are you suggesting? Asked Mr. Peterson, whose 10-year-old son could phase through solid objects. That we mount some kind of rescue operation? I'm not suggesting anything, Detective Morrison said carefully. But hypothetically, if a group of people with unique abilities wanted to help children who were being held against their will, they might find they had certain advantages over traditional law enforcement. She was right. In a room full of people whose children could walk through walls, see the future, influence electronics, and read minds, the word impossible didn't carry much weight. It would be dangerous, someone pointed out. So is doing nothing, Mrs. Anderson replied. Those children are being turned into weapons. Marcus, what happens to kids who resist too much? Marcus went very quiet. They get sent to the advanced program. I don't know what that means, but nobody ever comes back from it. The room fell silent. I want to do it, Liam said suddenly. I want to help get them out. Absolutely not, I said immediately. You're 9 years old. Almost 10. And Mom, I can hear their thoughts from here. All those kids Marcus told us about, I can feel how scared and lonely they are. It's like a big hurt in the air. He wasn't lying. I could see the strain on his face, the way he kept rubbing his temples. The facility has psychic dampeners, Marcus said. Devices that make it hard for kids like us to use our abilities. But if there were enough of us working together, from outside the range of the dampeners, we could overwhelm their systems, finished Emma, Liam's friend who communicated with electronics. Like a coordinated attack. Children would not participate in any hypothetical operation, Detective Morrison said firmly. Adults only. But you need us, Marcus insisted. I'm the only one who knows the layout. Emma's the only one who can deal with their electronic security. And Liam. Liam can coordinate communication between everyone without using radios they might intercept. It was a compelling argument. Also terrifying. How long would we have before they moved the children? Someone asked. Not long, Marcus said. Maybe a week. Dr. Kane was supposed to report back tonight. When she doesn't, they'll start emergency protocols. I looked around the room at all these families who'd found safety together, who'd built something beautiful and peaceful in these mountains. Were we really going to risk all of that to help children we'd never met? Then I remembered the hollow look in Marcus's eyes when he'd first arrived, the way he'd flinched when Dr. Kane spoke to him, and I knew the answer. What would you need from us? I asked Detective Morrison. The plan was insane. It was also brilliant. Emma would hack their electronic systems from a van parked 2 miles away, creating blind spots in their surveillance and disabling security doors at crucial moments. 3 parents who'd been military before coming to Haven would handle the physical infiltration. Marcus would guide them using his remote viewing abilities, while Liam coordinated communication between all the teams. Mrs. Anderson's daughter would manipulate the weather to create fog cover. Mr. Peterson's son would phase through walls to unlock doors from the inside. A dozen other parents with various abilities would provide support and backup. The children of Haven would stay behind, protected by the adults who remained in town. Absolutely not, I said when Detective Morrison outlined my role in the plan. Sophie, you're a medical professional. If any of those children have been harmed, if they need immediate care during extraction, you're the best qualified person we have. I said no. My voice was shaking. I won't leave Liam. Mom, Liam said quietly, those kids need you. I'll be safe here. You don't understand. If this goes wrong, if they capture any of us, you'll be alone. No, I won't. I'll have Marcus and Emma and Mrs. Anderson and everyone else. Mom, I've never been alone since we got to Haven. That's the whole point of this place. He was right, but it didn't make it easier. Besides, he added with a small smile, I'll be listening to your thoughts the whole time. If you're in trouble, I'll know. The range for that has been getting longer every day. Mrs. Anderson thinks it's because I'm not afraid anymore. When you're not using all your energy to hide, you can use it to grow instead. 3 days later, we were ready. The night was foggy and moonless, perfect conditions, thanks to Mrs. Anderson's daughter. I sat in the back of a modified van, medical supplies spread around me, watching Marcus's face as he guided our infiltration team through the facility. There at the first checkpoint, he reported, eyes closed in concentration. Emma, can you loop the camera feed for 30 seconds? Already done, Emma replied from her bank of electronics. They're invisible to the security system. Liam sat beside Marcus, occasionally wincing as he picked up thoughts from the frightened children inside the facility. There's a little girl in room 237 who keeps asking for her mom, he whispered. And a boy who can turn invisible but they make him wear a collar that stops him from using his power. My heart broke a little more with each update. Team 1 is inside, came the crackled voice through our radio. Marcus, which way to the residential wing? Down the main corridor, left at the junction, then through the security door. Emma, they'll need that open in 10 seconds. Got it. This went on for 30 nerve-wracking minutes. Our team moving through the facility, Marcus guiding them, Emma manipulating their security systems, Liam monitoring the emotional states of everyone involved. Then something went wrong. They know we're here, Marcus said suddenly, his eyes snapping open. Someone triggered an alarm. Team 1 abort, Detective Morrison's voice crackled over the radio. Negative. We're at the residential wing. I can see the children. It's a trap, Marcus said urgently. They're sealing the exits. Our people are going to be trapped inside. Liam grabbed my arm. Mom, they're moving the kids. The consortium people are taking them deeper into the facility, to someplace Marcus has never seen. I made a decision that probably saved everyone. Emma, can you trigger a complete system failure? Not just loop feeds or open doors, crash everything? That would take all my concentration. I won't be able to help with specific systems. Do it. Marcus, if their electronics go down completely, can you still guide our team? Yes, but they'll be working in complete darkness. Liam, can you maintain mental contact with everyone simultaneously? He nodded, sweat beading on his forehead. Then let's get those kids out of there. What happened next was like watching a perfectly choreographed dance performed in the dark. Emma crashed every electronic system in the facility. Emergency lighting failed, security doors locked in whatever position they were in, communications went dead. But our people kept moving because they had something the consortium didn't expect, a 10-year-old boy who could see through walls and another who could coordinate 13 different minds across 2 miles of mountain terrain. Left corridor, third door, Liam whispered, relaying Marcus's visions. 5 children, ages 6 to 12. The little girl is still asking for her mom. Got them, came the reply through Liam's mental network rather than the useless radios. Next room, 2 boys. One of them can move things with his mind but he's scared to use it. Tell him it's okay, I said impulsively. Tell him we're here because people who love him sent us. Liam's face scrunched in concentration. Then he smiled slightly. He says okay. He's using his power to unlock the door from the inside. Room by room, child by child, our people found them all. 43 kids who'd been stolen from their families, turned into tools, told they were unwanted. 43 children who were about to learn what rescue felt like. Everyone's out of the residential wing, Marcus reported. But they still have to get past security at the main entrance. The consortium people are there waiting, Liam added. With more of those pain devices. Emma, any juice left in their backup generators? Maybe enough for one big surge. Can you overload their weapons? Probably. But it might fry everything electronic for blocks around, including our van. I looked at these 3 kids who were risking everything to save children they'd never met, and I felt prouder than I'd ever felt of anything in my life. Do it. The explosion of sparks visible through the facility's windows told us Emma had succeeded. A minute later, Liam's face lit up. They're out. All of them. Our people are bringing all 43 kids out of the facility. Marcus started crying, not from fear this time, but from relief. They're free, he whispered. They're actually free. The aftermath was complicated. 43 children with various abilities, ranging in age from 5 to 16, all traumatized, all needing homes and families and time to heal. Haven wasn't equipped for that many refugees, but word spread through the underground network quickly. Within a week, we had families arriving from similar communities across the country. Parents who'd been where we were, who understood what these children had been through, who were ready to open their homes and hearts. Marcus chose to stay with us. Legally, it was complicated. His birth parents had been told he was dead 3 years ago. But Detective Morrison had connections, and sometimes the right people in the right places can make impossible things happen. The little girl from room 237 went to a family in Oregon whose daughter could communicate with animals. The boy who could turn invisible found a home with parents in Vermont who understood what it meant to feel unseen. One by one, the rescued children found their places in the world. The consortium facility in Colorado was mysteriously destroyed by what investigators called an unprecedented electrical surge. No evidence was found of the children who'd been held there, and the few consortium operatives who'd survived the rescue had convenient gaps in their memories. Dr. Kane was never seen again. Some people said she'd been transferred to a regular prison. Others whispered that communities like Haven had their own ways of dealing with people who hurt children. I preferred not to know the details. 6 months later, I stood in our backyard watching Liam and Marcus play with Scout. They were teaching him to fetch specific items by showing him mental pictures of what they wanted, a game that probably looked like magic to outside observers but was just Tuesday afternoon in Haven. Emma had joined them, bringing her younger brother who'd recently started showing signs of his own electronic affinity. The 4 kids were thick as thieves now, protecting each other the way kids should, supporting each other's differences instead of hiding them. You know what the strangest part is? I said to Detective Morrison, who'd stopped by for our monthly check-in. What's that? I used to think the worst thing that could happen was someone finding out about Liam's abilities. Now I think the worst thing would be him having to hide them again. Funny how perspective changes when you find your tribe. She was right. We found our tribe, our place, our peace. And yes, there were still dangers out there, other organizations like the consortium, government agencies that might want to study our children, individuals who saw profit in pain. But we weren't facing those dangers alone anymore. We had a community that understood, families who'd fight for each other, children who were learning that their differences made them powerful rather than vulnerable. As I watched Liam laughing with his friends, completely unself-conscious about the fact that he was casually reading the dog's thoughts, I realized something. The scared, desperate woman who'd fled a motel in the middle of the night was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Someone who belonged somewhere. Someone whose child was growing up knowing he was valued for exactly who he was. The phone in my pocket buzzed with a text message. For a split second, that old fear flickered through me. But when I checked it, I smiled. It was from another mother, someone new to the network, asking for advice about her 6-year-old daughter who could make flowers bloom by singing to them. I started typing back, ready to help another family find their way home. Because here's the thing about finding your place in the world: once you stop running from what makes you different and start celebrating it instead, the people who want to use you or change you or buy you lose most of their power. We're not hiding anymore. And that makes all the difference.